And the flick-on header is into the back of the net. And it's Alexis McAllister again. Back post. Oh, it's gone in. Little flick and an overhead kick. And it's gone in. And Sunderland through Brian Broby might have just got a point here. There's another go. Oh, fabulous from Rashford. Absolutely tearing it up. Oh, he's done it. Oh, what a finish. Can you believe it? Arsenal had the set-piece proficiency coming into it, but that is an unbelievable goal from Dominic Szoboszlai. Here's a chance one-on-one. Round the goalkeeper. It's 2-1. Brighton have turned it around. He's hit the crossbar. Manchester United are out. Grimsby Town have one of the most unbelievable cup upsets in the Carabao Cup history. Good evening and welcome to Premier League Live for our big game tonight. Newcastle taking on Tottenham Hotspur at St James's Park in our midweek action of Premier League football. All 10 games will be covered across LFS over the next 3 nights. 6 games for you tomorrow, but 3 this evening. 2 already underway at the Vitality Stadium. It's Bournemouth 0, Everton 0 at the minute there. These 2 games that are underway kicked off at 7:30, and a second goal has just gone in at Craven Cottage between Fulham and Manchester City, and it is now 2-0 to Manchester City. Tierney Reinders got the second, but Erling Haaland got the first, and that is important because it is Erling Haaland's 100th Premier League goal, which is a new Premier League record. That is the quickest player to 100 Premier League goals in the competition's history. 111 appearances, which is 13 appearances quicker than the previous record held by Alan Shearer, who done it in 124 appearances. So Erling Haaland with 100 after 111 games, and he scored it quite emphatically tonight as well, but he did miss a big chance early in the game, but he made up for it by getting that 100th goal, and a great Premier League record for Erling Haaland. But of course, as you would have noticed if you're a very reliable LFS watcher, we were absent across the weekend. Well, here's a recap of the Premier League weekend results. Brentford 3-1 winners against Burnley. Manchester City, a close game against Leeds, winning by 3-2. Same at Sunderland. Sunderland taking on Bournemouth. Bournemouth were 2-0 up in that game, but Regis Labrisa's side fought all the way back to make it 3-2 and win the game quite incredibly. Everton thrashed at home by Newcastle 4-1. We watched Newcastle tonight, of course, here on LFS, and their 4-1 win was their first away win of the season in the Premier League. Spurs beaten at home by Fulham. A Fulham side currently being beaten by Manchester City by 2-0, but a very good result for Fulham there at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday night. On Sunday, 5 games. Crystal Palace taking on Man United at Selhurst Park, winning by 2-1 did United there. Aston Villa 1-0 winners at home to Wolves. Nottingham Forest beaten at home by Brighton by 2-0. Same scoreline at the London Stadium. 10-man West Ham were beaten by the champions Liverpool by 2-0. A much needed win for Arne Slot's Liverpool, and a 1-1 draw between 10-man Chelsea and the league leaders Arsenal, which means drop points, and some results this midweek means Arsenal could come under some pressure. Maybe that Premier League title isn't wrapped up just yet. A long way to go. Of course, Man City winning tonight, that would put them just within 2 points of Arsenal, of course, who play tomorrow. A quick look at all of those games, by the way, for tomorrow night. Arsenal hosting Brentford in a London derby. Aston Villa head to Brighton. Burnley host Crystal Palace. Wolves face Nottingham Forest. Leeds take on Chelsea. And our feature game, Liverpool hosting Sunderland at Anfield. And then on Thursday night, we wrap up midweek action. Matchday 14 in the Premier League as West Ham trip to Manchester United at Old Trafford on Thursday nights. That is the way we look across this Premier League midweek, and a busy December on the horizon. And our first match weeks of this month is certainly giving the festive cheer and the festive excitement. Chilly nights all across the country, and already City making easy work of Fulham there in West London. Bournemouth and Everton locked at 0-0 there on the south coast. But up to the northeast we go for this one. It's Newcastle taking on Spurs. A big game after both sides conversing results over the weekend. Newcastle's first big away win, their first away win of the season. And Spurs, another dreary home defeat has been a real problem for them. But away from home, it's actually been quite the opposite. 4 wins out of 6 already this season for Spurs on the road. Let's have a look at this Game of the Week fixture then. Newcastle won 2-1 in both fixtures last season, home and away. The home team in this fixture has scored 4 or more goals in 3 of the last 5 meetings, and both teams start the night in the bottom half, but can finish as high as 7th, of course, with results going their way. And Spurs, as I said, have won 4 of their 6 away league games this season, boding well for them coming into tonight. But Newcastle had only won the games at home in the Premier League this season up until the weekend. 4 wins out of 6 at home, the other 2 ending in defeat. And of course they were winless on the road coming into the weekend, but leave it with a very promising result, a 4-1 win away at Everton. Certainly a confidence booster for Eddie Howe's men on the road. A quick look at the last 5 meetings between the sides, and as I say, quite competitive between these two teams. But Newcastle have won each of the last 4 games between the sides in all competitions, including a Carabao Cup win over them already this season. And a 4-0 thrashing of Spurs here just last year, the middle of last year. And of course, who will ever forget the 6-1 win that Newcastle had over Spurs here at St James's Park. An incredible result. They were 5-0 up inside 20 minutes were Newcastle in that game. Spurs will be hoping nothing of the same occurs tonight. Let's have a look at the teams then for this one, starting with the home side in Newcastle. Both sides have their fair share of injuries for this one. Aaron Ramsdale starts in goal for Newcastle tonight, so no Nick Pope. Livramento, Chow, Byrne and Hall are in the back 4. Tonali, Lewis Miley and Joe Linton make up the midfield 3, with Bruno Guimaraes on the bench. Jacob Murphy off the right. In-form Harvey Barnes off the left, and Nick Voltemade starts up front for the Magpies. Ruddy, Sher, Murphy, Elanga, Willock, Guimaraes, Ramsey, Gordon and Nave are all on the bench for Newcastle. For Tottenham Hotspur, Vicario starts in goal. Porro comes back in at right back alongside Romero and Danza, with Udogie at left back. Bentancur and Sarr in midfield alongside Lucas Bergvall. Mohamed Kudus off the right, Brennan Johnson off the left, and Randall Kolomuani leads the Spurs line on the up front for them tonight. Kinski, Gray, Spence, Van de Ven, Polina, Simons, Richarlison, Tell and Audebert all on the bench, on a side who were beaten at home by Fulham in a London derby at the weekends, but hoping that their away form this midweek can give them a big result after what has been a pretty dreary run of form. Row in all competitions, winless in 4, and certainly in terms of the league, haven't picked up a victory in the Premier League since the end of October. It is not a good run for Spurs, and there's certainly a place you don't want to come. That's St James's Park. Well, let's get ready for this one then. They're quick and ready to go for this one. 8:15 kickoff. The other 2 games edging towards the end of the first half, and what a first half it's been for Manchester City at Craven Cottage, and it's a third now. Phil Foden, after his 2 against Leeds at the weekend, he's got a third in 2 games, and it is Manchester City's third of the night. As we're underway at St James's Park for this one, Newcastle in, of course, black and white home strip. Spurs in their 3rd kit tonight of kind of a luminous yellow, which certainly they won't get lost anyway on that field tonight. But as I said, Thomas Frank's team in real desperate need of a good result. It has been pretty dismal for his team in their form as of recent. As I said, back-to-back defeats, 3 in a row, is certainly something that is getting beyond acceptable for Spurs. He's found themselves, as I said, at the start of the night in the bottom half, 12th, just ahead of Newcastle on goal difference. But with a victory tonight, Spurs could find themselves as high as 7th, ahead of Man United and Liverpool before both sides play later on this midweek. They would be in that position via goal difference, of course. Newcastle looking to just get some early possession. Here's Dan Burn out to the right hand side for Livramento. Thiaw back to Burn, and across now to Lewis Hall. Down the left hand side, nice little 1-2 with Harvey Barnes. Hall trying to flick it back outside, was caught in the process. But just after that, the referee's going to give a foul the way of Tottenham, for a foul just a few seconds after the Lewis Hall collision. Free kick to Tottenham is the decision from our referee tonight, Thomas Bramall. VAR, Paul Tierney. There's been another goal at Craven Cottage. Manchester City went 3 up, and now Fulham have crawled one back, and it is Emile Smith-Rowe with the goal. It is Fulham 1, Manchester City 3, and there's a goal at the Vitality as well, but here come Newcastle. Tonali, Livramento, nice little 1-2 with Murphy back inside it, trying to find Livramento, who's seen out of play by Doggy, and behind for the goal kick, but tried the underlap there, Livramento, and seen out of play by the Spurs left back. Yeah, just good body strength by Destiny Udogie. Shoulder charges him out of the way. Yeah, it's a good challenge. Strong defending. A goal at the Vitality. They are questioning whether it's a goal or not. The ball was in the back of the net, but Everton remonstrating, and I think the decision on the field was no goal. Whether VAR is getting involved or not, we'll find out. As I'm just keeping an eye on this game, and there seems to be no issues. We'll hold on a second, because here comes Newcastle bursting forward. Ball through the lines, and the shot there from Lewis Hall, who got himself central, is just off target. See it again, it's a bit of head tennis. Kudus trying to link it up in midfield, and a little bit of a loose ball by Pap Sarr. Just finds Lewis Hall in a really open space, bursting forward, and then has a shot from the edge of the area. Dragged wide, but a little bit sloppy from Spurs in midfield, almost gifting Newcastle an opportunity, which they win again. Bring it down nicely with Livramento. Murphy. Back it comes. Tonali. Outside to Murphy. Whips it in early, and Voltamada's header is over the crossbar, but they've started nicely, have Newcastle. A couple of decent opportunities, and that one an early cross from Jacob Murphy right from the touchline. Beautiful fizz ball across the box, and always a target man in there, and Nick Voltamada can't get on the end of them. That one he just couldn't direct towards the target. By the way, they've just gone half-time in those 2 early games tonight. Bournemouth didn't have their goal stand, so it was disallowed. The on-field decision stood of no goal, and Fulham are back into the game, but they are still 3-1 down at the break. Here's Voltamada, wins it back high, and sliding in was Rodrigo Bentancur to put it behind for the corner. Under the cosh a little bit, Spurs here. Unable to really get themselves out of trouble in the first couple of minutes here, Tottenham, and Newcastle looking to capitalise on a pretty decent start. And Sandro Tonali over this corner. Let's see if Newcastle can make this early pressure count. Give themselves an opening. Tonali Right-footed in-swinger. It's low. It's cleared away by the first man in there for Spurs. And recycled back with Livramento. Pretty big letdown really from Tonali as the ball fizzed into the box. Now this time, flicked down. Barnes tried to get on the end of it, but scrambled away by Spurs. And now they might have an opening themselves. Bergvall, nice little flick on header, finds Brennan Johnson, who's on the breakaway. Brennan Johnson gets a bit of space, gets across the box, and Lewis Hall's there to clear it away. Wanted a corner there, Spurs, but never crossed the byline. Stayed in play. Voltemata was shoved over. And that's going to be a Newcastle free kick. A bit end to end. And again, Newcastle committed so many forward. They might have left themselves a little vulnerable at the back. Good header by Bergvall. Gets it forward, finding Brennan Johnson on the left. And as he tried to switch it into the box to find Kudus. Good interception by Lewis Hall. Blocking it. And then Newcastle can clear it away. But Spurs maybe showing a little bit of a counter threat to the Newcastle pressure. No breakthrough either way, though, as of yet. Certainly Newcastle have been the better side so far. Speaking of Newcastle, they've won 5 of the last 6 against Spurs in the Premier League. Lost just the one. That's as many as they had in their previous 17 against Spurs, and in which they drew 2 and lost 10 of those games of their previous 17. So certainly in a good spell against tonight's opponents. Ball whipped in from the left, again from Spurs, half cleared by Newcastle as Voltemata and Barnes tried to link it up on the breakaway. And in the end, another free kick and another foul will go Newcastle's way. They were claiming that this was a corner, Spurs, a little earlier from the Lewis Hall block, and I mean, it looked like it crossed the line. At least some of the ball crossed the line, but whether it all of it did is another matter. Either way, it's probably a minimal moment. Although we heard today that FIFA is interested in getting VAR involved in corners for the World Cup, so maybe it could be the way we're going for the future. It's a lovely direct ball through the lines there. Murphy gifted it nicely out to Livramento, back to Murphy. Trying to work it into the box, blocked by the first man in Bentancur, and bounces back to Livramento. Murphy. Now Lewis Miley. Into the midfield, of course. Bruno Guimaraes on the bench tonight for Newcastle. This is a big confidence for Lewis Miley as Barnes never gave up on that one. Hall gets a little tangled. Lays it back to Joe Linton. Now Voltemata sets it up for the shot from Miley. Blocked. Back to Livramento. Into Voltemata. Again, keeping the ball just about. Firing it towards the back post. And up and away by Porro. Behind for the corner. Yeah, it was good pressure again from Newcastle. 1 or 2 times you thought Spurs just going to get a foot in and clear it away. But just holding on to the ball in and around the edge of the area. Sustaining that pressure. And winning a corner out of it. Second of the game. The first one was pretty lackluster from Sandro Tonali. Didn't get past the first man. Let's see what Newcastle can do in this one. Left-footed delivery. It's deep. That's cleared away at the back post. Fizzed all the way through. And now Kudus on the counter-attack. Not getting very far on that one, but does keep a hold of the possession and recycles it back for Spurs. I think Spurs just need a bit of possession just to take the sting out of it. Every time Newcastle come forward, you really think they're going to get somewhere with it and really test the Spurs goal. Albeit Vicario hasn't had to make a save yet, but every time Newcastle come forward, they look like they're going to get into a good area and threaten. And that's what Thomas Frank, I'm sure, is slightly wary of, and the fact that his team are giving up some big chances early doors, and albeit they haven't conceded, but it's not a momentum you want to find yourself in, especially not at St James's Park, where if the momentum is going the home side's way, it's very hard to stop. Here comes Spurs though on the break, and nice play down that left hand side. Brennan Johnson trying to find the underlap of a doggy, and it goes behind for the Spurs corner. Dan Byrne with the interception there and blocking it behind for said corner. Well, Newcastle have had 2 corners, not really threatened at all from either. Spurs were their first of the night. Third most corners scored this season. Only Arsenal and Chelsea have scored more than Spurs from corners. Whip one in. Head away at the front post, but all the way through and out the other end for a corner. Another one. There was a Newcastle head that got there in the front post and sailed over everybody else's heads behind for a corner at the back post. On the other side this time. I think these two are very well matched at the minute. There is very little. I mean, there was nothing between them coming into the game. 18 points apiece. 12th and 13th. Similar goal differences as well. Very well matched coming into this game tonight. Will be a close battle. Corner delivered in, narrow. Up and away at the near post again. Brought back down by Porro. Out wide to Kudus again. Kudus trying to take on his man, right-footed, trying to find the back post, and sees it out for a goal kick. Not enough whip on that cross. Just sailed behind for the goal kick. Look at that, Thomas Frank. 4 of his 5 Premier League wins in charge of Spurs have been away from home, which is not a good record, especially with the home crowd at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that can get very restless if they're not producing. They actually have the 2nd worst home record in the Premier League this season, Spurs. Only Wolves have a worse home record in terms of points picked up at home. Although here comes Spurs a little bit loose at the back here. Harvey Barnes whips it across, and the off-balance shot from Jacob Murphy was skied behind, but again, Spurs getting a little bit loose in possession. Again, it's Kudus, brings it down, tries to I mean, I don't know what planet he thinks he's on. He's trying to skill move past everybody. Mohamed Kudus doing keepy-ups in his own half and gives it away, and one back by Harvey Barnes down that left-hand side, and then the cross not right onto the foot, ultimately, of Jacob Murphy, whose shot was skied well over the bar. As I was saying about Spurs, just 1 win from 7 home games this season, 4 defeats at home. And as I said, only Wolves have picked up less points at home this season than Tottenham, which is quite dismal. Really, really bad for Spurs. 5 points out of a possible 21 picked up at home this season. Their North London rivals, quite the opposite. Yet to lose at home, and 16 out of 18 points picked up at home this season. In terms of Newcastle, their opponents tonight, they've won 4 and lost 2 of their 6 home games this season. Up around the top half of home records. It's quite tight around the top there, and a decent record for Newcastle. As I said, they haven't won a home Premier League game, Spurs, since Matchday 1 of the season when they beat Burnley 3-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Tonali's delivery from the Newcastle free kick left in the box, not cleared away. It is the second time round, as real scramble. And the midfield in control again, taken up by Newcastle. Here's Lewis Hall. Back to Tonali. Firing one forward, a flick on it by Byrne, just a bit too far away from Voltemata, who couldn't keep it in play. Thought he did, but the assistant on the far side spotted it go behind. Goal kick to Spurs. I mean, see it again, great switch ball. Byrne with a flick on. Voltemata, does he keep it in play? He clearly doesn't. Yeah, quite clear. A good yard or 2 outside of the behind the byline, so definitely a goal kick. Newcastle doing just enough there. Barnes winning a throw in out of Rodrigo Bentancur. Seems like Newcastle much sharper than Spurs at the minute. Looking certainly the more threatening of the two teams in an attacking sense up to this point. Nothing to show for it just yet for Eddie Howe's team. Long throw from Hall. Lofted into the box and hooked away by Caoimhan. He was back defending for his team. Well, one man I'm sure Spurs will be very aware of his movements tonight is Harvey Barnes. He actually failed to score away at Everton at the weekend, but had scored in his previous 3 for Newcastle in a row. Actually, a goal or an assist in his previous 4 for Newcastle. 4 goals and an assist in 4 games in a row, and that win over Everton was the breaking of that run. So a man in form at the moment is Harvey Barnes, and hoping that he can have an impact tonight, and I'm sure Spurs will be all over it if he does get involved. I'm sure he would be very much part of the preparation for Spurs coming into this game tonight. As Bergvall caught in possession, wanted a foul, not given. Barnes picks it up down the left-hand side. He's got Bentancur for cover. Barnes somehow squeaks out across. Miley trying to tuck it in. And it's right down and caught by Vicario to his left-hand side. But again, talked about the threat of Harvey Barnes. He's not just a pace machine. He can win the ball in contested challenges, and he did well there against Lucas Bergvall. He was just a little bit weak, and he did really well, Barnes. Just a beat past Bentancur and squeak it out to get it across the edge of the area. Very little space to manoeuvre into, and in the end the shot from Miley was a little bit too safe, really. Not comfortably gathered by Vicario. Catch-in practice really for the Spurs goalkeeper. I believe that might be the first shot on target of the night. It is. Spurs still without a shot in the game, by the way, to this point. Newcastle with 5 shots, 1 on target. Byrne now finds Lewis Hall. Back to Dan Byrne. Cross now to Malik Chow, who goes direct through the middle. Lovely little ball to find Voltamato, who couldn't backheel it to one of his wide men. Intercepted and won back by Tottenham. Bentancur trying to loft it forward, but wins it back. Kudus was well covered. Spurs just trying to get some sort of rhythm in the game, but again they've given it away in their own half. A doggy this time, a little bit loose in possession, as referee was going to play on as Murphy was challenged, but he's now going to pull it back for a free kick. And he was going to let it go, the referee, Tom Bramall, but after Newcastle were dispossessed right after the challenge, pulls it right back for a Murphy free kick. Doggy this time, just a little late sliding in on Murphy. Definitely a free kick. And another set piece for Spurs to defend. Jacob Murphy up and okay. It's good to see. Another opportunity to whip the ball into the Spurs area for Newcastle. It's Tonali over it again. Right-footed delivery, it's low. It's up and away by Caoimhan, and it will bounce behind for a corner. Wasn't the most confident of headers from Randall Caoimhan, and got some sort of contact to it. And then that said contact puts it behind for a Newcastle corner. The third of the night, the 5th corner of the night. 3 for Newcastle, 2 for Spurs. Just around the 20-minute mark, still goalless. Corner delivered in high to the back posts. One of them was too short and too low. That one was far too deep and far too high from Lewis Hall. Goal kick. Yeah, not quite setting up their, getting their set piece delivery quite right so far, Newcastle. Couple of free kicks, couple of corners, and Spurs really haven't been tested at all defensively on that front, to this point anyway. By the way, the two early games back underway for the second halves. Manchester City 3-1 up away at Fulham, and it is goalless between Bournemouth and Everton. We'll keep up to date with the scores as they develop right throughout the night in that one. Well, Spurs have lost each of their last 3 Premier League games against Newcastle. The last time they lost more consecutive games against the Magpies was between April 2006 and December 2008, when they lost 6 in a row. And this, if they lose tonight, would be quite close to that record. Voldemort, a nice hold up again, laying it out. A loose ball by Tonali. Not quite arrowing it out wide to Murphy, a little bit loose, and a doggy's there to intercept. Now trying to break down the left was a doggy. Well challenged by Livramento, and now back onto the ball come Newcastle. Tonali out to Hall. Back to Byrne and across to Malik Chow as Newcastle just try and reassert some control again. Well, speaking of control, Manchester City are in incredible amount of control at Craven Cottage. Fulham made 2 half-time substitutes to try and fend off what could be an absolute onslaught in the second half. But that really didn't last too long, did it? Because it is now 4-1 to Manchester City, and it is getting from even worse for Fulham on the night, and it is now 4-1. And Phil Foden, fresh off a brace at the weekend, has got another one tonight. And it is 4-1 to Manchester City. And I gotta say, my choice of captaining Phil Foden in my fantasy team is going very, very well at this moment in time. Very, very happy with that one. Christian Romero's just been given a yellow card, by the way, for a foul. So he has his 6th yellow card of the season. He's already faced a 1-match ban for accumulation of yellow cards. He's done that, surpassed it, and has now added to his tally for a 6th time this season. Spurs captain has been in the referee's book. Fulham absolute collapsing there at home to Manchester City. You gotta say, was quite a tight game for a while. It was just 1-0 to Manchester City for a good 20 minutes, and then it really just collapsed for Fulham in the final 10 minutes of that first half, when Reinders got the second and Foden got the third in the 37th and 44th minutes, and then not the start to the second half they would have wanted either. For Fulham, 4-1 down. Still goalless between Bournemouth and Everton. Two sides I would suspect are well matched in the way that they play. Just a point between them before tonight's games. Bournemouth with a point more than Everton, who were firmly beaten at home by Newcastle at the weekends. Here's Hall. Tonali. Livramento just getting it away before Bergvall tried to close him down. Murphy's early cross is to absolutely no one. Goal kick. Lacking that potency though in the final third at the minute, Newcastle. Dominating every other area of the field. Just haven't really been able to test Vicario too much tonight. 62% possession, 5 shots, an XG of 0.33. More corners, more passes, more accurate passes. Every stat is going in Newcastle's favour, including touches in the opposition box. 13 touches in the opposition box so far compared to Spurs' 1. So certainly the more threatening of the two teams, Newcastle, but not able to convert that into opportunities, certainly. And their only shot on target was a pretty comfortable gather for Vicario from a Lewis Miley effort from the edge of the area. To nothing of real note in terms of goalmouth action to share with you at this minute in time. And this game at the minute finally poised in the balance, certainly in the scoreline anyway. But it's been all Newcastle other than that. Spurs just haven't really got going so far. That was nice from Kudus though. Finds Bentancur, back to Sarr. Lifts it out to the left-hand side, finds a Dogie, a little bit short though on that ball, which takes away a bit of momentum, but he found Brennan Johnson, who wins a throw-in, as they take quickly. Spurs just haven't been able to find any sort of rhythm in the first 25 minutes or so. Said it has been all Newcastle, and haven't really been able to wrestle back any sort of control as of yet. Spurs is long diagonal down the right-hand side, was again blocked and cleared away, and now Lewis Hall on the offensive, feeds it in behind. Beautiful little run by Barnes, dragged out a little wide, good covering by Romero. Barnes will come back at him though, and the cross blocked, deflected back to Tonali. Out to the right hand side come Newcastle. Livramento's ball in deep, and a little too deep for Joe Linton, who was running in. Goes behind for a goal kick. It seems a little bit sharper from Newcastle. When they up the tempo, they look much more threatening, but those crosses not really finding their targets at them. And as I said, those set piece deliveries and then those crosses from wide areas just not quite accurate enough. The only real cross that's got any joy and found its target so far for Newcastle tonight was Murphy's one from the touchline towards Voltemata. And the header from Voltemata was well off target, but not really seen much other than that in terms of crosses so far that Newcastle have been able to threaten Spurs. 12 crosses they've attempted so far tonight, just 2 of them have been successful. So certainly not a good ratio. 17% success rate on crosses so far for Newcastle. Is it a surprise that Newcastle have had so much control so far? They have won each of their last 3 Premier League home games against Spurs. An aggregate scoreline, listen to this, an aggregate scoreline of 12-2. They've won just 2 of their last, just 2 of their last 11 such games between 2011 and 2022. They drew 3 and lost 6 of those said games, but have won each of their last 3. As I said, by an aggregate scoreline of 12-2, that is that's a chasm of a difference between the two sides at St James's Park over the last few years. And that includes the 6-0, a 6-1 and a 4-0er in that. As I said, the 6-1, they were 5-0 up in 21 minutes, were Newcastle. By this point, they were 5-0 up. It's quite crazy how that even ever happened. Jacob Murphy with 2, Joe Linton with 1, and Alexander Isak with 2 on that day. Harry Kane got the only Spurs goal of the day before Callum Wilson made it 6-1 in the second half. But my goodness, what an absolute pasting it was of Spurs that day. Another Newcastle corner will come here down the left hand side. Well, speaking of absolute pastings, Manchester City are absolutely destroying at Fulham at Craven Cottage. It's now 5-1, and Jeremy Doku has added his name to the score sheet. 54 minutes gone in that one, and it is Fulham 1, Manchester City 5. Corner delivered in. Newcastle head did get to it, but to no real threat. Malik Chow at the back post, and Bentancur clears it away out for a throw-in. But again, another cross that really doesn't go where it was desired to go for Tottenham. We have one game that's stealing all the goals at the minute at Craven Cottage. 6 and 5 of those have come from Manchester City, who were already heading into this week as the league's leading scorers. They had scored 27 goals coming into this match week. Well, they're already on 32 at the minute, which is the highest of any team in the league. Second highest on that list is Arsenal, the league leaders, who have 25. That's the second most. And then come Chelsea with 24. But Manchester City miles ahead of everyone else in terms of goal scoring at the minute. 5-1. Spurs have been nowhere in this game, I gotta say. That's a nice whip ball in. Malik Chow at the back post, headed across, and Dan Byrne wasn't able to get any sort of real contact to that one. Otherwise it really would have been threatening for Vicario again. It's a deep cross this time. Nicely delivered in, whipped in beautifully, and Malik Chow got on the end of it. Almost the two centre-backs combined in there. And in the end it comes to nothing, but Spurs are just under the cosh constantly here at the minute, and they have no outlet, no attacking threat whatsoever at the minute. And if I remember back to the North London derby I watched, not the weekend there, just the late weekend before, what was it, 11 days ago, and it was the exact same thing. They literally did nothing, Spurs, and really were destroyed defensively. At the minute, Newcastle are letting themselves down at the minute by not being able to find the net, because Spurs are offering nothing up the other end. It's really quite strange to see, but it's becoming a pattern, which is an unwanted pattern for Thomas Frank's team in games. There's a stat put up there that there's a number of times this season they fail to have a shot on target in the first half of a Premier League game. My goodness me. It is certainly not a joyful record that Spurs have. And at the minute, really is there much positivity around Spurs? Because, albeit a very good start to the season and some great results, I mean a big 3-0 win against Burnley at home, expected, but a really good start. And then the win away at Manchester City, a real dominant display in that one, where they Manchester City failed to score at home, which is almost never happens. So it was a great start to the season for Spurs, but again, when it gets to this tricky spell where they've a number of games in a row and back-to-back fixtures midweek and weekend, and just aren't able to string consistent results together, and then they go on this really bad run of form that happens every season it seems now, and they just fall away from any sort of real threat. Joe Linton fighting to win the ball back, does so. Livramento out to the right hand side comes Murphy. Murphy trying to work an angle to get the cross in, and it was blocked and deflected into the hands of Vicario, who gathers quite comfortably. Another goal at Craven Cottage. It's a 7th of the night, and it's the 2nd for Fulham. You were expecting me to say that it was another City goal. It isn't. It's Alex Iwobi. It's got another that's cut the deficit, but I mean they're still 3 goals down. It is Fulham 2, Manchester City 5, and still a whole half hour of that game to go. Voltamana trying to poke it through for the run of Murphy, again not finding his target, and Porro there to try and hoof it away. Down the sideline it goes, and out for a throw in to Newcastle. It's one-way traffic at the minute. I mean, it's just really dismal from Spurs, and the expectation, the Spurs fans are not the most patient. They will not be patient tonight. They will certainly not be in a mood to be patient. If they lose this game tonight, and in the manner they're playing at the minute, albeit it's goalless at the minute, but the way they're playing at the minute, they do not look like a team that's going to threaten Newcastle at any stage and give them any sort of concern. And with the fact they've picked up just 1 point in the last 4 games, here's a chance! Newcastle at the post, back to Hall. Out wide to Barnes. Barnes lifts it round the back post. Lots queuing up at the back, and Vicario was able to get there to get his hands onto it. It was 3 or 4 Newcastle players at the back post, desperate to get a chance. None of them could find a grip ball down the right hand side. It comes from nothing. Great ball threaded through the lines, and it's Joe Linton on the end of it, up against Bentancur. Gets it across goal, past Vicario, and it bashes off the left post. And in the end, it recycled well, whipped in by Harvey Barnes round the back post, and there's 3 or 4 Newcastle players waiting. None of them could get any clean shot on the ball into the hands of Vicario. hanging on a little bit now, Spurs. Newcastle, I mean, at the minute, it looks inevitable that they'll take the lead. It is so one-sided, it's unreal. But the scoreline, very deceiving at the minute. Well, in terms of duels so far tonight, in terms of 1v1 duels and aerial and ground duels, I mean, Newcastle are being well better than Spurs. Here's Brennan Johnson. He's won it quite rarely up front for Spurs. Kudus trying to deliver in, cleared away, back to Porro, back to Kudus now. Porro again, a rare foray forward here for Spurs. Nice little chink from Kudus. Kudus across, the back heel is just over the crossbar by Bergvall. And that would have been a smash and grab of a goal if Spurs had to find the net there. Great from Kudus, lovely little bit of skill to get past Lewis Hall. Feeds it across the edge of the 6-yard box, and it was Lucas Bergvall on the end of it. Trying the back heel, little flick. And he did get the flick on, and he just couldn't keep it down. Clips over the top of the crossbar and behind for the goal kick, but that was a real nervy moment for Newcastle. They really could have been sucker punched there by Spurs after what has been a pretty woeful first half from the visitors. As I was talking about duels, 63% to 37% in terms of duels, aerial and ground, in Newcastle's favour. They're winning almost 2/3 of their duels at the minute, Newcastle. Here comes Spurs with a little sprinkle of attacking action. Colomwani holding onto the ball nicely, finds Kudus, into space it comes. Kudus blocked by Hall. Kudus will retrieve though. Back to Porro. Right wide to Kudus again. Inside it goes to Bentancur. Trying to get some sort of threat here, Spurs, but trying too many passes it seems at the minute. Porro back to Kudus. Newcastle back in shape. Not wanting to give up anything at all. 7.5 minutes to go with the first half and remains goalless. Here's Porro. Again to Kudus. Zero invention here from Spurs. Playing they're passing to the same three players. And Porro will just go back to his goalkeeper. I mean, that's horrendous in possession. They look void of any ideas, Spurs, at the minute. When they're in possession and a team gets into shape against them, they just look lost. To find any sort of passing lane, to drag people out of position, to move into space, to create any sort of break in the defence. Although here comes Bergvall with a little run. That was a little better. Here's Kudus. Again, no movement in front of him, not much action going ahead of him. And Newcastle flooding the area. Whip ball in by Kudus. Half cleared by Byrne, and Livramento easily beats past the doggy who was running in on him. And he's in a bit of a physical tussle and loses that tussle, does Livramento. That's better from Spurs. Here's Colomwani. Breaking into the box. Lays it off now. Bergvall couldn't bring the ball under control. Cleared away, but Spurs having a little spell of possession now. Newcastle pinned into their own half a little bit here. Here's Kudus. Kudus switching it to the back post, and Colomwani got his head to it. But that's all he could do, and it goes behind for a goal kick. That's 3 shots in a number of minutes from Spurs. 4 shots, sorry, in a number of minutes. Albeit all of them off target, but you've got to say that was a nice little spell from Spurs. Ultimately coming to nothing, but it's better than what we'd seen in the previous 37 minutes. You've got to say, will Newcastle come to rue those missed chances? A massive one. Joe Linton hitting the post. That is the biggest moment of the game so far, and will they come to rue that chance and a number of others that they failed to really threaten Vicario from? You see it every now and again, a game where a team is so in control, so dominant in attack, failing to score, and then they get absolutely punished at the other end for not taking their chances. And almost Spurs inflicting that said script upon Newcastle. So far, neither side have found the net, and no damage has been done as of yet, with 4.5 minutes to go of the first half here in the northeast. Elsewhere, a lot of damage has been done to Fulham's defence tonight. 5 goals they've conceded in 66 minutes against Manchester City. City cruising towards their 9th win of the season, and it would be 28 points, which would have them just 2 points behind the league leaders Arsenal, before the Gunners play tomorrow night at home to Brentford. It would be Fulham's 7th defeat of the season in 14 games, and they would be just 6 points off the bottom 3. 17 points they would be on at this moment in time. It's very tightly congested in the middle of the field. In the middle of the table, I gotta say, disregarding the bottom 5 and the top 4, there is just 5 points separating 5th and 15th. That is how tight the Premier League table is at the minute. It is incredibly close. I mean, 11 teams in the space of what? 5 points. One win can catapult you up the table or completely drop you quite a number of places down the table. Here's Papsar finding Kudus. A bit of a positive spell here from Spurs in the last few minutes. Porro, Kolomowani low, flicked on by Bergvall again, but no one there to meet it, and Byrne clears it away. And then in the end, Papsar couldn't find Porro, out for the Newcastle throw-in on the near side. Yeah, really unable to threaten too much in this first half. Spurs. I gotta say, Newcastle at the minute unable to find the net themselves, despite their control. As I said, just one shot on target, so neither side have been incredible in front of goal tonight. Both have been pretty lackluster. Just doesn't bode well for the neutral and wanting an entertaining game, but keeps it tight. What will be surely an intriguing second half, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. Do stick with us. It will be a very entertaining second half. Murphy trying to pull across again. Lazy, that really. No one there, and hampering the possession completely unnecessarily. Both sides a little impatient at times tonight as well in possession. Both desperate for that quick pass, both desperate for that quick move, that counter-attacking move, that speedy move, and neither side really waiting, wanting to be patient, wanting to control the ball for a spell and really break down their opponent. They're just trying to find the quick and easy way, and at the minute, I mean, both are showing their real carelessness for the ball at the minute. That was better though from Joe Linton. Byrne right to Hall. Well, battled by Kudus, but back to Byrne it goes. I'm telling you, they've stolen all our goals at Craven Cottage. 7 goals in that game, and none in our other 2 games so far. That's nice though from Newcastle. Here's Tonali breaking the lines. Miley cuts it across. Barnes centrally has a shot, deflected off a defender, behind for the corner. Although he's not going to be given a corner, I don't think. I think they might have said it came off a Newcastle player last in Voltamata, and they're thinking it was a goal kick, or actually it was offside when it hit him, and therefore it's a free kick to Spurs. Interesting. Now Vicario's complaining to the referee about something. Not too sure what that is, but the referee having a quick chat with Vicario. And now there's a bit of action on the sideline that Tom Bramall has to come and have a look at. And as the 1 minute of additional time is held up by the 4th official, Tom Bramall is making a word of the staff here at St James's Park that Vicario's not happy with something behind his goal. That's what the Spurs goalkeeper was communicating to the referee. Well, despite the 1 minute of added time being held up, I'm pretty sure it'll be more than that. The referee has relayed the information and Vicario is told to play on. And now that official who was informed of said information is now relaying that to someone else. A real chain of communication. Goal kick to Spurs. As we've completely played out the minute of additional time, so we'll have another minute and a half or so to go. Vicario clears long. Flicked on by Sarr, trying to find Colomwani's run. Blocked away by Chow, and nicely taken down by Hall. Voltamada dropping deeper, trying to hold on to it. Does hold on to it. Taken down in the process, but referee says play on as he's dispossessed. Kudus. Bergvall again trying that back heel. He's kept the ball for the moment and then flicks it to absolutely no one. And now back with Hall. There's that. Find it between the lines, and again, no one there for him to find. Both teams a little bit wasteful in possession. I mean, that's another terrible ball by Brennan Johnson. And here come Newcastle on the breakaway. It's Murphy trying to go for goal. Well blocked. Called a handball by the crowd. Kevin Danzo, the accused party, and referee says no. And there's the half-time whistle. A pretty low quality first half, I gotta say, at St James's Park. Newcastle certainly the better of it in the first 35 minutes, but Spurs started to get one or two opportunities at the other ends. The game really just lost all quality in the final 10 minutes. And at half time, there is nothing to separate these two teams at the break. There is literally nothing in the game. Half time, it's Newcastle 0, Spurs 0. And the flick on header is into the back of the net. And it's Alexis McAllister again. Back post. Oh, it's gone in. Little flick, an overhead kick. And it's gone in. And Sunderland through Brian Broby might have just got a point here. There's another go. Oh, fabulous from Rashford. Absolutely tearing it up. Oh, he's done it. Oh, what a finish! Can you believe it? Arsenal had the set-piece proficiency coming into it, but that is an unbelievable goal from Dominic Szoboszlai. Here's a chance one-on-one. Round the goalkeeper. It's 2-1. Brighton have turned it around. He's at the crossbar. Manchester United are out. Grimsby Town have one of the most unbelievable cup upsets in the Carabao Cup history. Welcome back to Premier League Live, half-time at the St James's Park. It is goalless between Newcastle and Spurs, but my goodness me, it's definitely not goalless at Caoimhan Cottage. It is Fulham 4, Manchester City 5. What a game in West London. And Fulham were 5-1 down in this game. They've got 3 unanswered goals, and with 10 minutes to go, could they complete an unbelievable comeback against Manchester City? Unbelievable it would be if they could get anything out of that game. Well, there's now 8.5 minutes to go of normal time, plus additional, and we'll see if they can hang on. City. Fulham 4, Manchester City 5. Incredible game in that one. The third and fourth Fulham goals were from the same player, Samuel Chukwueze, who did come on at half-time for Sasa Lukic, so I was maybe a little bit too hesitant or too quick to say that maybe those subs weren't making an impact. Well, at the minute they are. There's, by the way, 2 players on a hat-trick in that game at the moment, Samuel Chukwueze and Phil Foden. So I wouldn't put it past them to be another goal in this game at least. Which way it will go is anybody's guess at the minute. Bournemouth are now 1-0 down at home to Everton. Everton have just scored in the last few minutes. Jack Grealish with the goal, set up by Carlos Alcaraz, and that is 1-0 to Everton. Bournemouth, not a good run of form for them either. They are winless in the last 4 games in the Premier League. 3 defeats in the last 4, only drawing at home to West Ham. And they don't go into an easy run of form either. They have Chelsea and Man United on the horizon as well to come. For Bournemouth, they're 1-0 down at home to Everton. And it is, as I said, Fulham 4, Manchester City 5. Unbelievable game. And it is Newcastle 0, Tottenham Hotspur 0 at the break here. A little less said about the first half in our game, the better, really, because it's been absolutely dreadful. And I have to say, despite Newcastle being the better team, really, towards the final 10 minutes of that first half was probably one of the worst sets of first half performance, last 10 minutes of a first half I've seen in a long time, because there was just no quality in the game. Neither team could keep a hold of the ball. Neither team were really trying to keep a hold of the ball. Some really terrible sloppy passes. And both teams just need a real kick. A real kicking at half-time, because Spurs have been dreadful. I mean, they were dreadful for 35-40 minutes and really just tried to show something in the first half towards the end of the first period of the last 5 minutes. But I think Newcastle need a reminder that the game's just not going to come to them. They have had more chances, but they haven't really done much with it. 2 shots on target out of 8 shots, so they've really not been anywhere near threatening enough to Vicario's goal, which will be a big concern for Eddie Howe, as I said, as Josh King comes forward there for Fulham, threatening, wins a corner. I can't keep my eyes off this game, by the way, at the minute, because Fulham are all over Manchester City, and who saw this coming when it went 5-1? And Jeremy Doku, by the way, isn't on the score sheet anymore. Sander Berg was credited with the own goal for that City 5th goal. But who saw this coming when City went 5-1 up? That Fulham would even have any hint of a comeback. And with 5 minutes to go, they're within a goal of Manchester City. My goodness me. Quite incredible at this moment in time. I can't believe this scoreline, but it is 5-4 to City. At this minute, remember, they would go second in the table if they hang on to all 3 points there at Caoimhan Cottage, and they would go within 2 points of league leaders Arsenal, and Fulham would drop to 15th, just 6 points ahead of the drop zone, which currently envelops Leeds, Burnley and Wolves, all in that drop zone as it stands. Let's quickly show you what these scorelines will mean for the Premier League table, because very intriguing, as I've told you, about Manchester City and Fulham and what this would mean for them. But a draw for these two tonight at St James's Park, I mean, it's not the worst result in the world, but it's certainly not something they want. A win would take either side if they get it into the top half, but this is where they currently stand. With results elsewhere and their own scoreline, it is Spurs would jump up 1 place, up to 11th on 19 points. Newcastle will also be on 19 points, but they would stay in 13th because of their goal difference not being better than Brentford, and of course Spurs having the superior goal difference as well as coming into the night they did anyway. So really, I mean, it moves them a little bit. They don't go down, or they don't drop a place, and they don't gain a place, Newcastle. And Spurs just gain a place by goal difference, basically, in this moment. So it's not really doing very much for either of these two. Bournemouth would drop to 14th with a defeat at home to Everton. Everton would be up into the top half, up to 9th. Everton would be, if they win this evening, they would be just behind their local rivals Liverpool by just goal difference. Of course, the Reds will play tomorrow night, and we will watch them here on LFS. And look at the top, as I said, Manchester City winning means they're within 2 points of Arsenal as it stands. Of course, Arsenal still to play, and City right on the verge of possibly one of the most unbelievable comebacks in recent Premier League history at Caoimhan Cottage. That's all still to come. But a reminder for you, we are live now for Newcastle v Spurs. Tomorrow, Liverpool take on Sunderland at 8:15, and then on Thursday night we round off midweek action as Man United host West Ham United, and we will watch all that action live here on LFS, including 5 more games for you tomorrow night. Arsenal v Brentford, Villa heading to Brighton, Burnley v Crystal Palace, Wolves v Nottingham Forest, and Chelsea's trip to Leeds, as well as Liverpool against Sunderland. That's all to come. The second half between Newcastle and Spurs, nothing to separate them at the break. It's 0-0, and the second half's on the way next. Welcome back to Premier League Live. Half time, it is 0-0 between Newcastle and Spurs. Quite entertaining, this one. You feeling my hint of sarcasm there. It is nothing in comparison to the game at Caoimhan Cottage. There is still a couple of minutes to go in that one. It still remains 5-4, and we will tell you if anything changes in that one, as well as the game at the Vitality as well, which is closer in it of itself. It is 1-0 to Everton in that game as well. So we'll keep an eye on those two as they emerge to a conclusion. But back centre stage is Newcastle v Spurs. Goalless at the minute. As I said from the end of that first half, lacking in quality. Well, Newcastle have responded to that by making a half-time substitute. Bruno Guimaraes is on, and Sandro Tonali has been replaced. So a switch in midfield for Eddie Howe's team to try and help them on to giving themselves a lead and a win in this game tonight. They're yet to draw a home game this season, are Newcastle. And the last time they drew against Spurs, either side in this fixture, was in April of 2021 when they drew 2 each in this game. The last time it was goalless. You'd have to go a long way back for that. There actually hasn't been a goalless draw between these two in the Premier League era. As far as our records go back, there hasn't been a goalless draw between these two. Not many draws over the years. Certainly a lot of action between these two over the years, but as far as our records go, back to 1993, there hasn't been a goalless draw between these two in 32 years. So certainly well overdue one, but hopefully not tonight. Hopefully not, fingers crossed. I do think this game could burst into life, though. If one team gets a goal, once the scoring starts, it could open the floodgates. But right now, the quality is nowhere near the level for either team to deserve a goal at the minute. Newcastle win it back high here. Lovely little turn by Harvey Barnes. Breaking in behind. Barnes with a shot well saved by Vicario. Back into the mix. Voltamata off the line. Thought that had gone out of play. It stayed in there for a second. Livramento. Back out wide it comes. Inside it goes now to Murphy. Murphy trying to eke a bit of space, and his effort, maybe trying to thread the ball through there, comes all the way through to Vicario. See this again. Newcastle win it really nicely. Played through by Joe Linton to Harvey Barnes. Makes a really good run past his man in Pedro Porro. Breaks across. Has a shot saved by Vicario. Bounces back into the air. I thought it had gone into play for a goal kick or a corner. In the end, it bounced back down off Vicario into the path of Voltamata, who got his head to it and cleared off the line by Kevin Danzo. And that keeps Spurs from going 1-0 down, but that was a real injection of energy from Newcastle on the attacking front. And two big chances, one after another. And Spurs hang on to the clean sheet for the moment. There are 8 added minutes at Craven Cottage. We're into the second of those 8 added minutes. It still remains 4-5 in Manchester City's favour. It's just mental, even saying that is crazy. And my goodness. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. Right, here at St James's Park, another long ball by Newcastle, cleared away by Danzo. Back forward it comes by Joe Linton, and again a real muddling in the midfield between the two teams as Spurs emerge with the ball. Here comes a Dougie. Back to Bentancur. Newcastle win it back again here. Joe Linton. Down the right hand side comes Murphy. Murphy to Barnes. Guimaraes. Back to Miley. Malik Chow poking it in behind. Livramento's run deep to the back post as the cross. A little high. Barnes will keep it in though. More pressure from Newcastle. More defending Spurs need to do. Being penned in again at the start of the second like they did at the start of the first. Guimaraes, nice spread of the ball, finds Livramento, back to Guimaraes who whips one in, it's deep, it's coming back. It's cleared away by Porro. To Kudus, under pressure himself, deep in his own half here, Mohamed Kudus. Nice little bit of skill to find Romero. He simply feeds it out to Udogie. Spurs just need any sort of invention at this moment. Desperately need something to go in their favour because they have been nowhere near good enough, and the form they're in at the minute is far from acceptable, but they look no signs of changing it as Newcastle won it back easily in the midfield again. Barnes, Murphy trying to tackle, but sheer amount of bodies wins it back for Spurs again. Here comes Brennan Johnson. Right to Kudus. Takes control of it well. Johnson down the right side. Just looking balanced a bit, Spurs. Brennan Johnson's naturally a right-sided player, and he's playing on the left tonight. I know he can play there, but he's literally had nothing. He's done nothing all night, and I don't think it's his fault because Spurs have done nothing in attack all night. I mean, anything they have done positively has come through Kudus. That's just because they think he's the only player that can get them forward at the minute. Nothing else has worked. I mean, what's that from Udogie? I mean, that's terrible. Spurs give it away cheaply again. Voltamata trying to work it through, but blocked by Romero. And I think this is what's hurting the game, is the fact that Spurs have been so poor that Newcastle are being dragged down with them, and this game is lacking in quality from both sides. Newcastle are trying, and Spurs are really just muddying it consistently. And they've given away a free kick there. A free whistling for a Newcastle free kick. Yeah, Miley plays it into Guimaraes, caught late by Papsar. Definitely a free kick, no question about it. This is what I mean, the quality from Spurs tonight has been absolutely dreadful. And from a Newcastle point of view, they're being dragged down with them. They're making it a terrible game. And this is going to be a real kind of wrestling to get anything out of this. Newcastle, this is where their quality needs to shine through. They need to find their toughness. All over at the Vitality. Bournemouth 0, Everton 1. Eking out of a big result for the Toffees on the road after thumping at home at the weekend. Big win and a clean sheet on the road. for Everton. Jack Grealish with the only goal of that game. And Everton win by a 1-0 and head up back to the northwest with all 3 points. In West London, there's time running out for Fulham to try and complete their comeback. It's still 5-4. Murphy tries a cross in here at St James's Park, cleared away at the near post. Again, the momentum in Newcastle's favour. 8 minutes gone of the second half, and it's been all Newcastle. Here is Murphy. Jinks past his man, and Brennan Johnson. Murphy lifts it across and all the way through. Barnes at the back post. A deflection behind for the corner. I mean, Spurs are desperate, clinging on here for their lives, and I mean, it's 6s and 7s there. There's 3 players around it, and they can't get anywhere near the ball, and it's Hall's shot. It's blocked by Porro, and behind for the corner. They're clinging on here, Spurs. Corner, delivered in, right-footed. Up and half cleared as the follow-up is on target by Murphy, and then flicked over the top by Barnes. Took a deflection the way through, though. Another corner. Again, good corner. Kept it in on Spurs. Couldn't escape their own 6-yard box. Murphy gets it down. He has a swipe at it. Little off target. I think Bergvall sweeps it away from Barnes. And behind for another corner. Incredibly packed 6-yard box. Right for the delivery. Pins it right on them again. And Vicario has to parry it over. So it could have went in directly from the corner there. Vicario's hands were called into action. Straight from the corner. Vicario has to palm it over the crossbar. And a 3rd corner in succession for Newcastle. This has been their best spell of the game. Although they were going to take the corner from the left-hand side, the referees informed them it's the wrong side, so they need to go from the right-hand side to take the corner. Still playing at Craven Cottage. It's still 5-4. 8 minutes are up. Last chance for Fulham here. They're on the attack. Got it into the area. Sessegnon wins a corner, I think. Oh my goodness me. That's crazy. Here comes Spurs directly from the Newcastle corner, and it's on the counter-attack. Here's Colomwani bursting forward, breaking into the box, and, well, challenged by Joe Linton stepping in. Bergvall wins it back though off Joe Linton, but given away cheaply again by Bentancur. And then a foul will go Newcastle's way. Spurs try to win it back for a second time. Lewis Hall was fouled, and Bentancur gets himself a yellow card. Oh my goodness, it's all over at Craven Cottage. Manchester City have hung on, and I do not say that lightly. They were hanging on at the death. They had a last-second corner that was cleared away, but Fulham were applying all sorts of pressure to try and get something out of that game. They were 5-1 up, City, 4 goals to the good, and ultimately, somehow, Fulham made a game of it. 3 unanswered goals to make it a real tasty affair to the end, but City, all 3 points in that one. A 9-goal thriller, one of the Premier League classics, and Samuel Chukwueze, one of the stars of the Fulham attempt of a comeback. And in the end, Pep Guardiola's side hang on for their 9th win of the season. And they conceded 4 goals tonight. They've conceded 16 all season, Man City. A quarter of their goals all season they've conceded in one game. And that is quite remarkable what Fulham were able to do. But still come away with nothing. And it finishes Fulham 4, Manchester City 5. In comparison, Fulham had conceded 22 goals now this season. They had conceded 17 coming into that game tonight. Here's Papsar. 57 minutes gone here at St James's Park. The 2 early games done. Away teams coming away with victories. So far the away team here has shown nothing in attack, but can they have a smash and grab, Spurs? Can they do the unthinkable, really? Here's Kudus, whip ball in by Porro, far too deep, and behind for a goal kick. I gotta say, they've really lacked any sort of threat at all, Spurs, in the final third. And Thomas Frank's team are really, really suffering at the minute. Newcastle, at the minute, not able to take advantage of that. Not as much threat as they would have wanted in the final third so far. As here come Spurs. Brennan Johnson couldn't squeeze it through the legs of Malik Chow, who ushers it out for the throw-in on the far side, which Kevin Danzo, I think, is going to take a long throw here for Tottenham. Can Spurs give themselves a lead in the most probably undeserving of circumstances in terms of their play, but can they make it something of this? Romero and Bentancur in there amongst them. Ball into the box, away by Byrne, and away by Byrne again, second time round, gets it clear. Bentancur just ushers that one out for the throw, which is going to go Spurs' way again. To the distaste of the home fans, but it was a Spurs throw, and they'll have another chance at this long one. Danzo again. Taking his time, which the crowd, home crowd, are not happy with. Danzo lobs it into the area. Again away by Byrne. Back out to Danzo it comes on the left-hand side, who's again trying to see it towards the sideline. Works it back to Johnson. Porro switching it out to the right-hand side. Brought in by Kudus. Back the way to a doggy. Now Sarr. Sarr with space down the left. Down the channel to Brennan Johnson, who skips past Murphy. Brennan Johnson whips a ball in. And Byrne gets it away from Randall Colomowani. And now Newcastle want to spring away. Nice little pass tucked into the path of Joe Linton, who was well challenged by Kudus. Now Porro breaking down the right hand side. Colomowani's got nothing, but we'll go out for a Spurs throw as we hit the hour mark. Newcastle 0, Spurs 0. And the question of are we closer to a goal? The answer to that is no. What a way to start our festive coverage here on LFS at the start of December. Well, there was a feast of goals in West London. We've been starved of any real attacking quality here in the North East. It only takes one moment. A moment of magic that can change this game for either of these two teams. Hanging in limbo at the minute. Needing an inspiration. Needing a star man to show himself. At the minute, neither side able to produce a star man or a star moment so far. Here's Brennan Johnson down the left. Feeds it on to Doggy, who switches back inside to Sarr. Now Bentancur directly to Bergvall. Back it goes to Porro. Down the right hand side to Kudus, who feeds it in behind for Bergvall. Bergvall at the byline keeps it alive, but hooked away by Livramento. Better from Spurs. I gotta say, the only real player that's showing any attacking intent at the minute for Spurs is Lucas Bergvall, and that was probably evident in the first half. That's the only real player that's showing any sort of attacking threat at the minute for Tottenham. Udogie. Down the line it goes to Johnson, underlapping as Udogie, breaking forward. Destiny Udogie. Blocked well by the back-tracking Joe Linton, and behind for a corner. A little better, and now Newcastle are going to probably respond to this last few minutes of Spurs by reading Anthony Gordon, and Anthony Alanga's also going to grab his bib to try and win or to get some of his warm-ups in. So maybe some attacking reinforcements from Newcastle on the way shortly, but Spurs corner will come first though. Porro left-hand side. It is Spurs' first corner of the second half. They're third in total in this game compared to the 7 of Newcastle. Compacted area, Porro to the back post. It was Danzo was the target. And I think there was a header in there from a Newcastle player in Lewis Hall. And it will be another Spurs corner. Again, whip ball in. And Hall just about does enough. Just gets it away for another corner. Left-footed delivery. Fizzed across the near post. Away by Barnes. Not very far as Porro has a hit at it. Deflected into the path of Kudus. Just keeps it in play. Just about. Now we'll try and recycle down the right-hand side. Kudus whips it in. It's deep. It's plucked out of the air by Ramsdale. He tries to set off Newcastle quickly. Miley. Beautiful little ball through here. And it's Jacob Murphy running into the goal. Well blocked by Porro there on the cover. That was good from Ramsdale. Getting them off the mark quickly there. Newcastle on the breakaway. And ultimately Spurs recovering well. But for a moment it looked threatening. Need a little bit more injection of energy in this game. Sometimes a little bit lethargic from both teams. But that's a nice direct ball towards Voltamata, who tried to cling on. Lost his possession. Nicely fought to win it back with Guimaraes. Right to the left-hand side is the Brazilian. Guimaraes steps inside, finds Lewis Miley. Miley across, now Livramento. Livramento whips it in round the back, and Porro gets his head out for the corner. And he might have hurt himself in the process there, Pedro Porro, heading that one away. Great direct play from Newcastle though initially. Ramsdale into Guimaraes. Guimaraes around the corner for Murphy, and ultimately not able to be threatening enough in the end, but certainly a threat. That very direct football there from Newcastle. Let's see. Corner indeed it is. Left hand side, right footed delivery. Up and punched away by Vicario. And then the follow-up is deflected away from goal. Flicked back in again, and Spurs are able to scramble it away with Randall Colomboani. Both sides coming close. Livramento there. That shot from range. Say it again, the corner's delivered in. It's punched away by Vicario. Does well, and it bounces to the edge of the area. Sweet volley strike by Livramento. Beautiful little catch of the wind. Clean as you like, and Brennan Johnson blocking it. Albeit his goalkeeper might have got there too, but took no risks. And now a double change from Newcastle. Going to see Gordon and Alanga on. And Barnes and Murphy off. So changing of the wingers. Let's see if the attacking subs can make the difference for Newcastle. And then Spurs in deep conversation on their bench as well to try and figure out what they can do to change the game in their favour. 24 minutes to go. Plus the additional time, of course. And Spurs still without a shot on target. Newcastle have had 2 shots on target, in the second half. Had 2 in the first. They've shown a little bit more attacking threat, Spurs, but still not testing Aaron Ramsdale at all tonight. As here come Newcastle on the break, down the left-hand side. Here's Joe Linton trying to cling on to possession. Goes down under a challenge, wanting a foul. Says no, the referee. The Spurs hinder possession again. Give it away cheaply. Alanga. Hall looping it to the back post. Caught comfortably by Vicario, who lets rip quickly, finding Bergvall down the right-hand side, sorry. Down the channel comes Colomboani. Across to Bergvall. Bergvall trying to eke out something across the box. Brennan Johnson wasn't in the mix. And Newcastle can clear it away. Here's Alanga. To Guimaraes. Joe Linton back to Bruno Guimaraes. Fed out to the left channel as Gordon unmarked down that left-hand channel. Here is Anthony Gordon. Breaking towards the box. Lifts it across. No one there in the middle. And a Dougie takes no risk. Puts it behind for the corner. Can sense nerves in both teams at the minute. A little more in Spurs' defence than Newcastle's, but both sides looking a little bit tentative defensively so far in the last few minutes. 22 to go. And Lewis Miley to take this corner. Arms in the air. Right footed delivery. Lofted into the area. Half cleared by Spurs. Bounced and deflected back into the path of Voltamata. Flag stays down for the moment as it goes up against Nick Voltamata. It was offside from the rebound, but remains nothing to come of that. A reminder for you, another game tomorrow night. Hopefully more goal-mouth action than this one. At Liverpool taking on Sunderland at Anfield tomorrow 8:15, along with 5 other games that is in action tomorrow night, including the league leaders, Arsenal hosting Brentford, and Chelsea's trip to Leeds as well. That's all coming tomorrow at 8:15. Caught in possession there was Guimaraes by Sarr. Sarr skipping into a little bit of space out to Brennan Johnson, who's offside. And that was pretty lazy from Brennan Johnson, if I'm honest. He had literally no excuse to be offside there. And in the end he was. And that's what breaks down that emerging Spurs attack. Well, an interesting little stat this that I found. Newcastle haven't lost any of their last 10 home midweek evening matches. Very specific, but they haven't lost any of their last 10 such games in the Premier League since a 2-1 defeat to Crystal Palace in February of 2021. They've won 7 and drawn 3 of the last 10 midweek night games. Here's a ball across the box. Voltamata lays it up. The shot! The goal! Bruno Guimaraes breaks the deadlock, and Newcastle United take the lead. A pretty dismal quality game, and a man full of class and quality. Bruno Guimaraes tucks it in the bottom right corner, and that is the breakthrough for the Magpies. Spurs can't argue that Newcastle haven't deserved it tonight, because they certainly have. They've been the better team, and he has been a real conductor since coming on at half-time. A straight switch at the break for Eddie Howe, making the difference. Again, it's Gordon wide, dragging players out of position. Voltamata, whose hold-up play's been excellent all night. He got it again, holds it up really nicely, lays it up beautifully for Bruno Guimaraes, who just strides under the ball, sweeps it, and finds that far corner. Beautiful goal. And that is exactly the injection of quality this game needed. And no better man than the Newcastle man with the armband. Newcastle 1, Tottenham Hotspur 0. And it's surely only what the home side have deserved. And when needs must, the right and true captain shows. And Bruno Guimaraes with the armband tonight, showing a captain's-like performance in this second half. At the minute, would be helping his team to all 3 points here as it stands. My goodness, do they deserve it. They've been far better than Spurs. That doesn't mean they deserve to win. Here's Brennan Johnson. Whip ball into the box. Randall Colomawani couldn't get on the end of it as he was dragged down. But Malik Chow and Randall Colomawani had a grip of each other. And his rather obscure and bizarre face covering is a little bit Hannibal Lecter, that one. I mean, it's very interesting, that facial covering that Randall Colomwani has on. Well, they were ready in one change, Spurs, a minute or so ago with Richarlison. They're ringing out the changes now. 3 players await to be introduced for the visitors. And we talked about Newcastle's really good record in home midweek games. Spurs have won just one of the last 13 midweek Premier League games, drawn 2 and lost 10 of the last 13 midweek games in the Premier League. And the only win in that run was a 3-2 win over Brentford in January of 2024. And they've lost each of the last 7 such games and have scored just 1 goal in the process. Their midweek woes are continuing here tonight in the Premier League, failing to score and are losing once again as it stands. 17 or so minutes to go in this one. Miley trying to squeeze it through for Voltemana, not quite finding him on that occasion. Nice movement here from Newcastle again. Bruno Guimaraes told to shoot by the crowd. Feeds it wide though this time to Livramento. Back to Elanga. Elanga's cross blocked by a doggy behind, out for the corner, I believe. A little bit weird the bounce of that ball there. As Spurs readying some changes. Matisse Tell, Richarlison and Xavi Simons. The 3 players are waiting to be introduced. They will be introduced after this corner. Lewis Miley over to take again for Newcastle. Miley, right footed delivery. Punched away by Vicario again. Back down by Livramento, who takes it back a few yards to Lewis Hall, his opposite fullback. Out to the left channel, finding Anthony Gordon now. Opportunity for Newcastle. Gordon fires it towards the area. Bobbling around, Lewis Miley tries to tuck it in again like he did in the first. This one right down the throat of Vicario, right like his first shot. Again, Newcastle 1-0 up, threatening for that second to really put the game to bed and put it beyond any reasonable doubt that they're going to be claiming all 3 points here tonight. Ramsdale. Chow back to Aaron Ramsdale. 15 to go. And still awaiting those attacking changes for Spurs, who are still without a shot on target in this game, which is far from good enough, really, for a team that wants to be chasing European football. Well, at the minute, they would sit in 14th. With this defeat tonight, Newcastle will jump up to 7th. And the results that both of these sides needed to go to 7th have come through for them tonight, so they will, the winner, finish 7th. Here's a chance for Randall Colomwani. It looked like he was just carving through Newcastle players at will there and ultimately wins the corner. Miley just bundled over by Colomwani, wins it back, breaks into the area, beats past Gordon, then past Hall and almost past Joe Linton. Almost a big chance as the changes rung out. Johnson's coming off for Tell. Colomwani's last action there has just been seen as Richarlison's going to be his replacement. And a third change is going to see Xavi Simons come on to replace Lucas Bergvall. So Bergvall, Johnson and Colomwani all off. And coming on are Simons, Richarlison and Matisse Tell. So triple change for Spurs up front, trying to rescue this game. Corner on the right hand side for Spurs. Kudus to deliver, left footed. Sweep towards the area, cleared away by Voltemada. Brought down by Sarr. Kudus trying to eke out a cross again. Voltemada's head to it to clear it away again, as he strides up to press the Spurs back line. They're the German centre forward. Here's Matisse Tell to Simons. Bentancur to Udogie. Charlison, nice. Simons, better from Spurs. Tell. Stringing some passes together at least. Tell, patient, finding Porro on the right side, finds Kudus now. Up against Hall, Kudus lofting it into the area! And the header, diving from Romero, has got the equaliser. It's the battle of the captains at St James's Park. Newcastle's captain gives them the lead, and Spurs' captain fires them level. Christian Romero's diving header is into the nets, and Spurs are back on terms. 1-1. And the first real injection of quality all night from Spurs. They have been woeful in the final third, and it's quite ironic that it's a defender that gets the goal, because their attackers have been pretty dreadful. It's Mohamed Kudus. Just pokes it across the area. Really nice cross. He's been quite good tonight at times, Kudus. He's looked the most threatening. Pokes it across, and a diving header from Christian Romero. Their first shot on target of the night for Spurs. The first time Aaron Ramsdale's had a shot taken against him, really, of any real threat. And it's a conceding of a goal. And that has really excited this game into life. I said the floodgates could open if one goes in. And that's 2 goals inside in 7 minutes. And it is 1-1. There you go. We talk about captains, so important to their teams. Well, no more so than tonight. Both captains scoring for their respective teams tonight to give them what they need in said game. Spurs trailing, needed their captain to a level. Newcastle level, needing their captain to lead. And here comes Alanga for Newcastle to retake that lead. Cleared away by Porro as Anthony Gordon was arriving in the area. Cleared away as far as he could get it. Well, maybe we have an intriguing last 10 minutes now. Told you the second half would be more interesting. Throw in the Newcastle here on the right side, taken quickly by Livramento. Back to Tino Livramento it comes. Nice little 1-2 with Alanga. Liveramento's cross, plucked out of the air by Voltamata. The shot by Hall, deflected behind for the corner. That's got the game going. First shot on target for Spurs of the night. Their only shot on target has them level in a game where Newcastle have had 11 more shots, 5 more shots on target. They've hit the woodwork as well, Newcastle, in this game. By far the better team, but the game is all square. That's Premier League football sometimes. Corner, left hand side for Newcastle. This is corner number 11 of the night. That's another stat that they've dominated Spurs in. Corners, right footed delivery from side corner, flicked on to the near post as Byrne went down. Wanting a penalty, he's not going to get one. Rodrigo Bentancur, the player wrestling with Dan Byrne. I mean, a complete mismatch, no doubt about it, but I mean, there's nothing in that. Yeah, nothing in that from my point of view. I mean, Bentancur is practically on the floor when Dan Byrne comes right down on top of him. I mean, they're both wrestling. There's nothing in that. Yeah, nothing in that at all for me. Paul Tierney will, of course, have a quick look. Tom Bramall, I'm sure, will be told to just play on. Although they are having a look at it, though, with Paul Tierney. I mean, I think it's just soft. I think if this is given as a penalty, it'll be a real disappointment. Because it's just not. I mean, I can understand the fact that Rodrigo Bentancur did pull Dan Byrne to the ground, but also Dan Byrne's hauling at Rodrigo Bentancur. It's what happens in a penalty area. And I think something is going to happen here, and the referee is going to go to the monitor. So Tom Bramall told by Paul Tierney to go to the screen and recommends an on-field review. Initially, no penalty was given, and now Tom Bramall's been told to go to the screen to have another look at it. I don't think it is. I think it's soft, if I'm honest. It's one of them ones. If it's given against you, you're absolutely screaming at the referee, and if it's given for you, you're going, yeah, great, fantastic, you've got away with one. It's just not a penalty for me. It's really soft. I mean, as I say, both players have contact with each other. They're both grappling. The ball's nowhere near them, really, in the end. I mean, there's nothing in that for me. If this is given, it's very soft. The referee's gone away from the screen. He's telling the players to leave, as we'll hear the dulcet tones of Tom Bramall. See what he has to say. Come on. He's going to give the penalty. And you could tell before he really got to the point, his explanation was going that way, and Bentancur deemed to have pulled Dan Burn down. A holding offence is what he called it. I mean, very politically correct. It is a penalty to Newcastle. And maybe on the balance of the game, they probably deserved to win, honestly. But I think that penalty decision is soft. I mean, all 6'7" of Dan Burn pulled down by Rodrigo Bentancur. I mean, I said it was a mismatch, but I mean, there's nothing. No, I think that's really soft, if I'm honest. But the decision's been given, and that's what's sticking. And Vicario not too happy. He's trying to make himself a bit of a nuisance. Dan Burn, Nick Voltemata, and Anthony Alanga are all round it in Newcastle colours. I wonder who's going to take the penalty. I think it might be Voltemata, I would suspect. Well, Anthony Gordon's on the scene as well. I think he might take it. He is going to take it. Anthony Gordon's going to take it. Well, he's scored 2 and missed 1 of his 3 Premier League penalties, Anthony Gordon. This is a crucial game, a crucial moment late in a game to try and give Newcastle the lead again. With 5 minutes to go. Vicario taking his time to tiptoe back to his line. Gordon awaiting. Whistle's already gone. Anthony Gordon against Vicario. To give Newcastle the lead once again. Anthony Gordon fires it in. No doubt about it. The keeper went the wrong way. And Anthony Gordon firing it into the far corner to retake the lead for Newcastle. And as I said in the first time they scored, they deserve it. This one, a soft penalty decision. But in the end, Newcastle won't care which way it goes. It's the fact that they take the lead again that is the most important factor. Newcastle 2, Tottenham Hotspur 1. Anthony Gordon with a well-executed penalty. And if I'm honest, do I agree with the penalty decision? No. It doesn't matter. Yes, it doesn't really matter what my opinion is, because at the end of the day, the one that matters the most is the referees, and he gave the penalty after an on-field review. And what a well-taken penalty it was by Anthony Gordon. Really top tier. And again, gives Newcastle a lead once more. A lead that would take them up to 7th and send Spurs to 14th. Two sides that started the night right beside each other in the table are going to end it as far away as they could from each other. 7 places will separate them by the end of the night if it stays as it is, but there's no guarantees that's going to happen either. As Spurs make some more changes, Wilson Odobert and Archie Gray are on. Papsar and Mohamed Kudus are off. So Spurs going to go for the long throw. Kevin Danzo again. 2.5 minutes to go plus additional time. They've rescued an equaliser once, Spurs. Can they do it a second time? Long throw by Danzo. Cleared away at the near post. The Spurs player goes down over Charlison. Went down very easily. Whip ball in round the back. A little bit too narrow, that one. Richarlison, his best Hollywood performance, trying to win a penalty. I mean, that's just... I mean, there was literally no push. He threw himself to the floor. I mean, A-level drama at its finest. Terrible. I mean, my God. My God. He's no shame, does he? No shame, Richarlison. Whatsoever. My God. Terrible. Terrible. Right, back to the game. Newcastle 2, Spurs 1. And it looks like Newcastle, their strong home record is going to stand tall against what was a pretty good away record for Spurs coming into this game. Looks like they're going to be on the end of a second away defeat of the season, Tottenham. They came into the night with only Arsenal having picked up more points on the road than them this season. Chelsea in the mix of that as well. Well, actually one less game than both those teams. And looks like Spurs are going to end the night staying in third. 13 points from 7 games on the road, which is a decent record. And as for Newcastle take the free kick quickly here. 30 seconds or so of the 90 minutes. Ball whipped into the area. Richarlison gets his head to it. A doggy gets a little caught. The heavy touch is Miley there to win it back for Newcastle. Trying to find the corner flag, and it's held on to as he tried to keep the ball in play, and the assistant didn't see that. Just gives a Spurs throw. A doggy will take, but we'll be in a hurry to take. We'll see how long will be added on at the end of the 90 minutes. If Spurs will have time to find an inspired equaliser for the second time tonight. So they find it down the left hand side, and there's going to be plenty of time. 9 added minutes. Plenty of time for Spurs to find an equaliser. More than enough time. But do they have the quality to find it? Well, let's tell you a stat that I picked up before the night. Newcastle don't have a good record of holding on to wins. 9 points they've dropped from winning positions this season. That's half of their accumulated points that they have. 18 points coming into the night. 9 points dropped from winning positions. They could have had 27, which is quite a distance and a difference. Spurs have 5 points dropped from winning positions, but that's not relevant at all. Here comes Spurs here. Chance, Xavi Simons, edge of the area. He can add a little bit of space, finds Porro out to the right hand side. Audebert trying to lift it in. Deflected behind for the corner. Lots of time. Spurs have won 66 of the 153 previous games they've played against Newcastle. Newcastle have won 56 of the 153 games. As I said, including each of the last 4. Corner to Spurs, right hand side. Can they find a head of one of those luminous shirts? They can't. Cleared away at the front post by Hall. Audebert feeds it back wide. Porro's delivery. It's deep. It's up and away by Byrne. And away up the field by Livramento, who got it as far away as he could from his own area. Simons was going to take the throw in, but Newcastle are going to make a substitution. But just before that, Lewis Miley's going to be coming off for Newcastle, and taking his place is going to be Fabian Schär. So an extra defender on for Newcastle just to hold on to this lead. It's been an issue for them before. An issue they don't want to repeat here tonight. Usually an issue on the road, not usually at home, but Narrow, close game. You remember the Liverpool game here at St James's Park way early in the season. They fought all the way back to 2-2 Newcastle and ended up losing the game all over again. So they've been hurt here before. Can Spurs find another equaliser? Porro fires one in. Flick back across. Richarlison's in the middle. Can't get a shot off. There's an effort from Simons that wins a corner. That seemed like an impossible touch from Matisse Tell. Beautiful touch. First time plays it into Richarlison, who just couldn't get any sort of touch towards the ball and cleared away for the corner. It's delivered in by Tell. It will come. Again, Richarlison's claiming a pull. Which are they looking at? I don't know if they are looking at it, VAR. Maybe they are. Malik Chow did slightly pull him, but there's nothing in that. There's nothing in that. Corner to Spurs. 5 minutes of the 9 to go. Lots of time. Ball delivered in. Punched away by Ramsdale. Not very far. The overhead kick. Bundling into the back of the net. In slow motion. And it's Christian Romero again. It's 2-2. And it was in half speed. The overhead kick. And they all seem to watch it find the corner. And my goodness me, Newcastle, architects of their own downfall again. And Spurs, for the second time tonight, finding a way back into the game from a goal down. Again, it's from the corner. It's never cleared away. Ramsdale gets a punch, but as it comes right back down, Romero, no one tracking him. They all watch him as he goes for the overhead kick. No one believes it's going anywhere near the goal. The only explanation I can figure out, he gets the overhead kick and it just bounces past 3 Newcastle players. I mean, this has to be awfully defended by Newcastle. And the keeper, takes a little step, then goes to dive. I mean, it's slapstick at the best. 2-2, and Romero has his second, and Spurs his second. Maybe it's not over yet, though. That's going to be a Spurs free kick, deep in their own half. Well, he's on a hat-trick now, Romero. I'm not saying he's going to get one, but you never know. This game's been bizarre and crazy at the best of times. Wow. It's certainly not burst of McCoy. Great from Romero to even attempt the overhead kick in such a late time in the game, but comes off his shin, bounces down in front of Dan Burn, and another Newcastle player couldn't quite see who it was, but it's horrendous. Oh, this is an awkward bounce. Oh, almost caught Ramsdale out there. He just got his hands to it. Well, we saw Man City almost throw away a lead earlier on. A lead much bigger than Newcastle's. Our Newcastle throwing away 3 points once again. And more points dropped from winning positions. 2 shots on target tonight for Spurs. 2 goals by the same player who's a centre-back. The most unlikely of occurrences in a game of football. And Spurs have somehow found a way to keep themselves in the game by such a strange way of scoring. Well, they all count at the minute. By the way we've seen the last 15 minutes, can either side really argue to the fact that a draw is probably ultimately a fair result based on the last 15 minutes, because neither side have really done enough to win the game, and both have been really desperate for a draw, it seems. Will be the first draw between these two in 4.5 years. If it does end this way, still 2 minutes to go. Alanga down the right, floats it in behind for Livramento, who just about held on to it, but couldn't keep it from going behind for the goal kick. You've lost all energy at the minute, Newcastle. And sure, Eddie Howe must be the most frustrated man at St James's Park, because his team have led twice and have been pegged back twice and have been so much better in the first 70 minutes of this game than Spurs, sorry, and by far deserved the win. But when leading, they have not been good enough to hang on to said lead, and that's why they're being punished. Well, they're unbeaten outside of London this season, Spurs. They picked up 10 points from 4 games outside of the capital, winning 3 and drawing 1. They last had a longer unbeaten run outside of the capital of England, between March and October of 2022, when it was 6 games. As it stands, their record would extend to 5 games, and albeit they would remain winless in the last couple in the Premier League, but a point's better than nothing. And twice tonight they could have been leaving here with nothing. And a stat I failed to tell you, when Bruno Guimaraes did score for Newcastle, he's been involved now in 12 goals in his last 20 home Premier League games for Newcastle. That's 8 goals and 4 assists, including tonight's goal, which is quite incredible for Bruno Guimaraes. Danza with a long kick forward. Charlison trying to get himself into the mix there. He does make himself a nuisance. Wins it, finds Tell. Tell gets a deflection to Archie Gray. A doggy. 99 minutes are up. Is there one last attack? Simon's in behind. A doggy across, deflected. And it's gone behind through Cher for a throw-in. It's going to be a throw-in indeed. One. Oh, they've given a corner. It's not a throw-in, it's a corner. Now they're going to throw everybody forward here, Spurs. Well, Vicario got to the halfway line and is told to stop. He's not going any further. Can they snatch it at the death here, Spurs? One last corner, surely. 2-2 in the 100th minute. Corner. Whipped in, right-footed, and into the hands of Aaron Ramsdale. And there's the final whistle. It was the last action. And it was to be a conclusion where neither side came away with 3 points. Both sides, in the end, probably not doing enough to win the game, honestly. Newcastle led twice. Spurs pegged him back twice through the same player in Christian Romero. An inspired captain's performance from him. It all started when Bruno Guimaraes fired in, and I said the floodgates could open if one went in, and that's surely ensued. Guimaraes with the first on 71. Then they equalised, Spurs through a diving Romero header on 78 minutes. Anthony Gordon's soft penalty was tucked home for 86 to give Newcastle the lead once again, before Romero restored parity for the second time in the night in the 95th minute, when he rescued a point for Spurs in what was probably a dismal game in their terms, in terms of their quality, and they were second best for surely 3/4 of it. But all that matters is the score after the final whistle. And again, Newcastle dropping points from a winning position. That's now 11 points they've dropped for winning positions this season. They have 19 points. They could have 30. And they could be joint top of the table. That is what it means in the difference. Spurs, somehow, some way, don't lose this game. But my goodness, it's not looking good for Thomas Frank's team. This is certainly not an inspired performance by any means. It is now 5 winless in a row, and they are winless in the Premier League since October the 26th. Over a month without a Premier League victory for Spurs. But they have inspired themselves somehow to an equalising and a goal, 2 goals from behind, to find themselves a draw. It finishes 2-2. Let's show you what the rest of the night's action has shown us. Everton winning by a 0-0 away at Bournemouth. Jack Grealish with the only goal of that game. Bournemouth the only team to fail to score tonight. And look at that game at Craven Cottage. Fulham 4, Manchester City 5, a 9-goal thriller. City were 5-1 up in that game, and 3 unanswered goals from Fulham meant it was a nervy ending for City, but they get the 3 points. And Newcastle 2, Spurs 2. Let's show you what that means for the table then. I think we can show you what that means for the table, I believe. We can. And let's show you then what that means for the top of the Premier League table. Arsenal remain top of the table going into tomorrow night's game against Brentford. They lead by 2 points ahead of Manchester City, who've jumped up a couple of places to second and within 2 points of the league leaders on 28. Chelsea in third on 24, along with Aston Villa on 24. Then comes Brighton in 5th on 22, followed by Sunderland on 22. And then 21 come Man United, Liverpool and Everton, all in 7th, 8th and 9th. Of course, a couple of those teams still to play. And Palace making up the top half on 20 points. Into the bottom half comes Spurs, who could have went into the top half with a win, but a draw sees them stay in the bottom half on 19 points. Brentford on 19, as well as Newcastle and Bournemouth, all failing to win tonight, but Brentford still to play. They play tomorrow. Fulham failing to win as well. They lose and they stay in 15th. And then come Forest in 16th. 17th is West Ham. And then the bottom three of Leeds, Burnley and Wolves. And 3 games tonight. A total of 14 goals from 3 games. 9 coming in just a singular game at Craven Cottage. Quite a dramatic affair there. But it was the opening of the floodgates at St James's Park. Bruno Guimaraes captaining Newcastle to give them the lead. But it was the Spurs captain that had a brace on the night to rescue a point for Thomas Frank's team. It finished 2-2 in the North East, but it was well eclipsed by the action in West London. Good night.